Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar. We'll be covering off the new NZCIC guidelines. My name's Mark Fairbairn and hopefully I'll take you through this in a fairly short time. I appreciate you're probably giving up your lunch hour to get into this. So as I said, my name's Mark Fairbairn. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager for Masterspec here in New Zealand, but also do a lot of product development, and CIC was one of those things I helped out with. So hopefully we'll go through and show you a little bit about that today. So let's have a look at what we're going to cover off. We're going to cover off the history, just a little bit of a background on NZCIC, where it came from, who's responsible for it. We'll cover off how to log in and create those logins, and why logins are so important for you if you don't already have one. We'll talk a little bit about project creation, how to do that, the formats of the specifications. It's a fairly simple document to look after, so it shouldn't take us too long to get through editing. But there's a couple of tricks I'd like to show in the back end, and that's about Office Masters or creating a master, which should help you save time if you use this product often. And also sharing the information as well in between project teams. You can do that, but you can also share it outside to another consultant base as well, which I think is a real advantage to the digitisation that we've done to the Construction Industry Council's toolset. And also how to publish it, how to get it out of the system. And then we'll finish off with a quick Q&A. If anybody's got any questions, if you could just type the questions in and we'll see if we can deal with those at the end. Hopefully Sam will read some of those back to me and just filter out the double ups, etc. And then we can go through some of those Q&As if you've got them. So just type them in there. If we don't have time to get to any of them, we'll come back to you online. So thanks very much again for bearing with us. Let's get into it. So a little bit of history about the NZCIC guidelines. They came about some years ago. They have been updated several times. The last major update was in 2023, which was part of the reason also for getting this information up to date as well. So in 2022, some minor changes were done, and that was around contracts. Most of the changes that were done in the last update in 2023 really are around BIM, some health and safety. There's also some Māori design process entered into the CIC documentation, but there was a real expansion of the later phases of that, of the information, especially around where constructors are involved. So there was a lot more detail put into the system for everybody. So there's quite a range of stuff. So if you want to go through and have a look at the CIC web page, you can look at the NZCIC guidelines. It will tell you basically what I've just told you there about the CIC. It'll also show you that there was a whole range of people involved in updating the CIC documentation. So each line of the CIC documentation has been gone through and updated or changed or altered throughout the process. So everything has been looked at. So a thorough update has been done. So that was finished in late 2023, launched in Parliament, and has been available on the Masterspec system as a digitised system since then. So that's how you can access it. So let's talk about how do we access it. How do we get into it? If you don't have a login, there's basically a nice button here, create a login. Logins for CIC are free, so you don't need to belong to Masterspec, but you can access it. If you're already a Masterspec customer, you don't need to create an account, and please don't, because it's just a double up. And we want you to be able to work collaboratively in your practice. So if you already have a Masterspec account, don't create a new account. If you don't have an account with Masterspec but would like to use the CIC documentation, create an account. It's free. So we will ask you some baseline information here. We're just saying here again, just to reiterate, if you're an existing customer, please don't do that. If you have a customer account, but you don't have a Masterspec account, you don't create a login. You just basically contact Masterspec. We'll create a login for you that's attached to your company account. It'll become clearer as we go through it, but it's about sharing that information between your project or your company account. And of course, if you don't have any of those things, just create an account here. You need to fill in your organisation details, obviously, and then following on from that, it will be your login details, which is your email address and a password which you select. It will then send you a confirmation email, and then you can start in the process of creating a CIC document. So the benefits of why we've done it in this digital format really are that it is now editable. In the old format, which was available on the CIC Guidelines page, it was a PDF document. It was editable, but effectively the PDF is fixed, so you couldn't change any of the content. Here you're allowed to change content. We can highlight the changes. A CIC document is an industry standard, so what you're looking for is typically changes in the standard, and we'll show you that in a moment. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just jump into the specification system itself, and so you can actually see what a CIC document looks like. And this is what it looks like in a digital format. So I'm now sharing my screen, so you can see what a CIC document looks like. So it's editable. You can change content in here. It will highlight the changes. It allows you to be collaborative. It's certainly repeatable. So if you want to, at some point, you can take the specification or take this particular project and repeat it and use it again like an Office Master, so you don't have to start from scratch each time if you make a lot of customization of a specification. And obviously you can publish it out, but you can publish it out more than just printing it. You can actually publish it as an online document to share. So let's have a look at some of that. Let's go through and create a login. So if I just go back to the CIC guidelines, you can go and create an account here. And if you don't have a Masterspec account, or your current company doesn't have a Masterspec account, you can go and create an account here, fill in your organizational details, and then the next slide effectively will be your email address and a password, and then we'll send you a confirmation to that email address, and then you should be ready to go. So let's go and create a CIC guideline. So we'll start from scratch. This is what a CIC guideline looks like, but let's start from scratch. So what you'll do is create a new project. And we want to create a new CIC project. You can create a CIC project with a specification if you're a Masterspec user. We've done that simply so it allows you to keep the two together in the same bucket. If you want to start the CIC guidelines, then you can do that early and then add the specification in at a later date. Most people will just want to create a CIC project by itself. Simply, you can go and select or create a client. Here I've actually got some clients created. Put in a project name. A reference. If you have your own internal reference, you can put a reference in. All of this is searchable. You can create an image. That sits on the cover sheet effectively of the CIC guideline. So that might be the project image, for example. You can set up just a few project parameters for us, and then the address of the actual project itself. So I'm just going to preload that. And there are three options when you're creating a CIC document, right? So typically you will start with a pre-populated document. You can start with a blank document. In other words, you have the tasks and the roles, but you do not have any of the information filled out as to who is responding to those roles. So you're effectively starting from scratch. Or you can start new, which is basically cloning here a particular project from before. So that's the Office Master format that we're talking about. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail later. But I'm just going to create this one from scratch and just click it so you can see what happens when we jump in there. So what you'll see on the left-hand panel here is actually an index of all the phases of a CIC document, right? So starting from the preamble all the way to the practical completion at the end. What you're seeing in the middle here is the setup that I've just done. And then if I click on any of the index, you'll notice the middle panel here will change and show that. So we can have a look at the preamble. The preamble is a set document set by CIC. It basically outlines what a CIC document is and even has a glossary, etc., to all the terms that are in there. I'll let you read that at your leisure. But the preamble should go with the CIC project so that it is visible or available to whoever's reading it when they're looking at the CIC guidelines. The cover page, you can see the information here that I just set up here before, XYZ, and that it's telling me when I last updated it and who the author is. And the author is, in effect, the company. So I'm set up as Treehouse as my company, but that might be any number of consultant names that obviously your consultant name that goes there. And then you have the design phases, etc., all the way through. So it's set up so these all design phases are not repeated throughout the rest of the commentary. Hopefully that's the idea is that saves a whole lot of space and time. And if you look at this, you're actually seeing the tasks down the left-hand panel here, the roles along the top, and then along here, you're actually seeing this is the allocation of those tasks. And you'll see that here you have some filled in rondelles and some open, and obviously no rondelles. If you look at the key, it will just tell you what those are. So effectively a filled rondelle there, or bullet, is a deliverable required by the party and are responsible to deliver it. Now, that's all fantastic. We've basically gone through and put those together. What you want to do now is obviously change this particular document, this NZCIC guideline, and make it customizable to your particular project. And so that's the advantage that this digital version has. So you can add your own custom row effectively throughout the project. So any of these you can add a custom row to. It adds the custom row to the bottom. And the reason we've done that is basically to make sure that the format of the specification, or the project stays exactly the same. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at the same content for any of the NZCIC guidelines, because the key or value in it is looking for the differences inside a CIC guideline. In other words, what's different from the industry standard. And so we do a few things to help that out. So custom row, I'm just going to put some content in here. You can add a description to that activity. And then you can give it a deliverable. Now, a deliverable is actually the output. What is the output of the action? And we might say it's a minute in this particular case. And then I push submit. And you'll see that it's now entered it. And you'll see also that it's changed the color of it to orange. Now, that we use as identification to you as a visual user that this is different from the standard. All right. So you can now look after that row or effectively customize that row. So if I go through here, I can add more tasks to it. Now, how do I change the rondelles? I can cycle through any of the cells. So any of the cells I can change and update. And I can do this as well on the current ones here. So if we wanted to add more tasks, I can. If I wanted to take one away, I just simply cycle through it. And when I've cycled through it and removed it, you'll notice it puts a marker at the top to tell you that someone has changed that from the original version. In other words, if we removed it and you couldn't see it, you wouldn't see that there was actually a change inside the CIC guideline here. So again, you can add new content, you can change the roles, you can change the task as well. So in here, you have a task heading, but then you have a description of the task. What we've allowed you to do here is also change the description of the task. You can't change the activity task itself, the title, but you could change the content in here. So if I wanted to remove part of that content, oops, bad click. I can, and then update. And you can see that it's left a strike through because this is existing content, and therefore we want to show that this content has been removed and is away from the standard documentation. In other words, that might mean we might have to change our practices or even update our costs about what we're doing for this particular thing, for this particular task. So you can look after all of that. You can also add further roles. So CIC has set roles that have been set up by the industry, but we'll realize that you might want to add further roles. That's the button here on the end. There are, I think, another 15 odd roles in here that you can go and select. So if I want to add a town planner, I simply select it, add, and it will add it to the roles along the top. Now, there is a limitation on adding roles along the top. Because of the format and how it's printed, you're limited, I think, to adding 3 further roles. There is one here on the end called Other. Now, Other is interesting because it is customizable. So we can actually enter our own role here. So you can change one of them to be something that is absolutely unique to your task or project. But again, you can continue to add further roles on the end. FF and E, I can add that in. Okay, so I've now added several more roles. Same process, you can remove them as well if you want. But what you've got to remember is that these roles will now actually be available in all of these phases right through the project. So we've just looked at quickly at the all design phase. As I said before, this is meant to say that you can state it once and then you don't have to state it through the rest of them. But you can see the rest of the phases are in construction order. And if I look at those, you can see that there's quite a lot of new information in here, as I pointed out, in health and safety, BIM as well now. Throughout the process, I think there was a lot more work put into the construction and design and admin and observation than previously was. So I think with the update, there's been quite a lot of work done in this space. You can see that's a much longer version than I think it originally was back before 2023. Okay, so the design phases, or when you've made changes to it, what we want you to do is to look after that and keep these things in shape so that if you're working inside a team, that you're actually telling everybody what you've done. So we want you to be reading through each of the design phases and checking them off. And the way to check them off, and once you've changed any of the content, is to set them to complete. And when you set them to complete, it basically just gives a little trigger over here. And you can see visually now, did I not change it? Set to complete. That it's now set to complete here. And it should tick off here as well and set to complete. Oh, sorry, there it is at the bottom. Sorry, construction and design phase. Looking at the wrong one. So now you can, what we should be seeing is completed ticks all the way through at the end of the project. That will allow you to basically make sure that you can print it without draft written on it. So that's the editing phase. It's a reasonably simple tool set to look after. There's not a lot of extra functionality apart from point and click with the mouse, or you can actually add rows or change the content. Once you've done that, that's all well and good, but what's the other value is being able to create an Office Master, or if you like, your own company version of the CIC documentation. So you may spend some time going through all of these phases, making changes and updates to the content as you go through, but what you want to be able to do is actually save that as an Office Master. So one of the things that we suggest you do is create an Office Master, or create an Office Master off a project that you've already done. So if you've got one that's fairly standard, and I don't think there is actually an idea of a standard CIC document, but there are some things that you typically like to see and get done by the organization, you can go and do that. So you can go through and create a project. So what you want to do is create a new specification project, and what you want to do is call that your Office Master. So we'll basically put a new project in. We don't really need to select a client, but we can, and we'll call that Office Master. And this will then stack up with all the other projects, and it'll be basically the one that you start with. You don't need to add an image, but you will just need to fill in these. If you could just put in a dummy number here, and also a dummy address, but we're going to use the Office Master. And once we've created it off the Office Master, we'll alter these individually. So what we're going to do is go and clone one, and we go and select a project. Go and search for this one here. And then I'm going to include a CIC guideline, and I'm going to start that as cloned as well. And then click add. So here's my Office Master. If I go into the CIC guidelines, this is me using it as a Masterspec user. As a CIC user, you don't have this tab, you just have the CIC guideline tab. You can see it's now remembered those changes that I made before. So any changes I've made have come through with the cloning off the original project. And now I can start off with these changes already made, and then I can make customization further from that. So taking an Office Master is basically as easy as creating a new project and saying clone the Office Master, and you basically then have a standardized system which you can start from every time for your particular account. So that's a reasonably easy thing to do, but it also has great value to a practice, so you don't have to start from scratch each time. Now, sharing's really cool inside the system because it's digitized, and there are, I think, 1,800 plus accounts inside Masterspec with about 9,000 users. There's a reasonably high chance that the people that you want to communicate around a project might already have a Masterspec account, or already be a CIC Guidelines account holder as well. But it doesn't really matter because it's free. You can actually give them access anyway. So one of the things that you can do is you can share an account or share the project. And you should see this with an Access tab. Now, the Access tab is available to administrators inside Masterspec, or if you set up the account, you should see that as well. So if you don't see the Access tab, don't panic, just call Masterspec. We'll actually sort it out for you. It's a very quick process to do, but rather than teach you how to do the process, it's sometimes quicker for us to just go and do that for you. So you can go and grant external access if that's what you want to do to a CIC document. And then by doing that, what you're doing is opening up the opportunity to collaborate with others. So if you give access, all you need to know is their email address. You can set their permission. So there's one level you can put in here, or two levels, I should say. You can open it for editing. So if you're happy to collaborate with that other person at the same time, you can. Or you can give them read-only access. In other words, they can see it, but they can't alter it. The active button has just been created so that if you have multitude of people in here, you want to turn people on and off at appropriate phases or times, you can do that so that you don't have to re-enter their details every time. That's the only advantage of the active button. And there's one more way that you can use this tool set or use the access button, which is sometimes useful to practices, is to restrict staff. Now, we don't typically like to do this, but this would be restricting access to internal staff. If there's more than one person within the shared account of, in this case, Treehouse, we might have an account or a CIC document that we would like to do on a need-to-know basis because it's at a very early stage. We can basically say only these people can see this account. So in this case, I might put myself in and one other or whatever, but basically you can go and apply those that can see the account, see the project. So therefore that can't be found or searched by other people within inside the practice until you decide to release that restricted access. So it's quite a cool tool set to be able to use with everybody. So publishing, so let's have a quick look at that. I'm just going to go back to the CIC document. So once we've got a document and we want to get it out, I'll just jump into here and navigate this through. I'm going to just mark this one as complete. Now that I've marked it as complete, I'm going to just go through and show you the manage and print function. So if I go to manage and print, it will give me some options about what I want to do or change in it. So I'm just going to go through this as a PDF. If you are in a CIC document only, you won't see the specification. You'll just see the CIC document. And you'll see these here, 3 highlighted changes, which they are already pre-selected. Highlight the changes to the CIC document guideline. In other words, I want to hide those changes. What do we mean by changes? Any changes I made which are effectively in orange to the roles are removed so that it looks like a plain document again. And if that's basically, if you would like to push it out as a contract document and you don't want to show the orange highlights, you just want to show the document as its intended purpose, that's what you can do. But if you want to share it so that you can show the highlighted changes and share that with someone else to see those, you'd leave it on. So I'm going to turn that one off. You've got to include the CIC guidelines in the preamble. Again, if this is internal, you probably don't want to do that. I'm going to leave that on so you can see the option. The option is to merge the preamble with the PDF on export. In other words, you can make it one document, one PDF document, or if we undo this, you actually generate 2 files. You generate all your phases together as one document, or you generate the CIC preamble as another document so that they can be pulled apart effectively in the export. So that's maybe what you want to do. And then you can basically go through and just export now. So I'm going to go and do that, export the CIC document. So you can see it's going through the process of generating the cover, the phases, etc. It's a reasonably sized document, so generating a PDF, we rely on a PDF toolset to go and do that. It takes a little bit of time to chug through all of those phases and then generate the document out the back end, so which is just done here. The reason I've generated or wanted to generate for you is you can see draft here, but you can also see when it was last updated, and you can also see when it was exported. So there may be some days difference between that, but every time you generate it, we're going to generate the export. The reason we wanted to do that, or we wanted to be able to do that for the CIC documents, is that you know what version you're looking at. You could enter a reference anyway as to what that is, but we want to be able to make sure that you can see the difference between the two. And then in here, if I had exported these with the changes on, any changes I've made to the roles would be showing up in orange, but here they're in black. And so we can go through and see the document as intended as a PDF. The other option that I want to show you is to issue it as a cloud issue. Don't show me that again. So again, I'm going to issue this as a CIC document, and I'm going to make it public, and I'm going to give the cloud issue, if you like, or the issue a name. So this might be for information. Every time I generate a cloud issue, I need to give it a new name. In other words, a new issue, so that we can see the move from it. So again, it might be a naming convention you invent, but it might be each time you do it, you might want to change the version number or put that in if you want to. And again, I'm just exporting it right now. And what that's done is it's taken an instance of the documentation, in this case, this Office Master called Honey, and it has basically created a version on the Masterspec cloud, which will stay there forever, and effectively anybody can go and get to it. So if I go click on View, you can now see it's opened me up another document or another tab, and then I can see the cloud issues. So specification cloud issue, again, it's just a slightly different format, but you can see in here the same stuff has come through that's on the usual cover sheet. And then if I open up the NZCIC Guidelines part, you'll see the preamble, the cover page, etc., etc. Again, if you're a CIC Guidelines customer, you don't need to see work sections and cover pages. Basically, the idea is if you are a Masterspec customer, you want to see the two together as a reference, you can do that. So you can use your specification and the CIC document. If you're a CIC customer only, you don't need to see this stuff here. You'll just see the CIC guideline stuff by itself. And again, you can go through and look at the content. There's the cover page, designs, all the design phases. It's reasonably quick to navigate and look after. Cool thing is that once it's published, if you want to, you can go and share that with someone. So you can go and copy that, put it in an email, send it away to someone, and then basically they can see the same document and the same version that you've just generated each time. So you can go and do that and then share that with other consultants or interested parties. So it's a reasonably easy thing to do. It sits on the Masterspec cloud. You can issue as many of these as you like, and it's a nice way to be able to share the document in an electronic format rather than just a PDF. Obviously, it's not editable, it's a read function. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. If you want them to have editable function, you basically, someone can get a login, and again, you can go and share that document with someone else, and then you can coordinate or collaborate together on your next CIC document together. So I'm just going to open it up, and if anybody's got any questions, or Sam, if you've got any questions prepared for me, I'm happy to sit down, do a Q&A, and just go through any content that people might want to look at.
Yeah, sure. There's only one question submitted in the Q&A tab, and it's from a Janine Allen.
Yep.
She's asking if there's a document control doc that identifies what changes have been made in the CIC document version from the previous version.
No, it's not. It's built basically to identify the changes. So let's. I'll just go back and also, I suppose I'll reiterate that. I'll go back into the CIC document here. So in an electronic format, what we've done is we've basically put a date stamp on any of the content. So let's just go and open this one. So any changes are highlighted in orange, right? So you can see the change. And then if I put it into edit mode, basically the changes are notified to us. So if I go and click a row, add a description, select the deliverable, so we can see the changes there are made as well. And you can see that any new changes, like adding extra tasks or adding roles in, or adding in a role can be made in orange. Why is that functioning? Sorry, my mouse obviously is having some battery issues. And so you can see any of the roles are changed in orange. So if you like, we are giving a visual representation of those changes, but there is no update or versioning. So the way to be able to also achieve that is through the manage and print function. So when you export it out, you can actually write each version as you change it up and collaborate with them.
All right, cool, thanks. I will move on to Dean Burdett. He's asking if it's possible to delete either roles or deliverables that are not required in any given project.
So I think what he's asking is, can I delete all of this? The answer is no. Uh, it was basically the NZCIC have been very clear that with the electronic version, they don't want to remove the content here. They want to make sure that people understand that that has changed from effectively the industry standard that CIC has got here, the pre-populated version. So if you like, if I went through and removed these roles, this would be how I would achieve that. So I would remove this particular task. Yes, confirm. And basically it's showing that the tasks have been removed from the project roles, and that is not standard to what a CIC document is. So therefore it's something to look for or to recalibrate for the project. Again, same as adding a new role is slightly different. Again, it's an orange here. Or if you alter any of the roles, so say I wanted to make that slightly different, again, it would show up in orange. And you can see here, you can see the date stamp that's appearing with it, telling me when it was changed and who it was changed by, because I'm actually logged in here as Ian. So you can go in through and select those things and make the changes, but you can't wholesalely delete all of it. I suppose if you wanted to, in this particular case, I could select that and remove the task activity description. If I wanted to be any clearer, that I don't think that probably helps what you're trying to achieve. Must have to leave some content. So you can see it's basically removing the content out of there. Though I don't think that actually helps what you're looking for. So you can't effectively take out whole swathes of the document. If you wanted to get really tricky with it, you can go and do that at a custom level, but that's, again, not CIC's advice. CIC's advice is to leave the content in and make it clear that what changes have been made and why you're making them, in other words. So I don't know if that helps, Sam.
Yeah. I received another follow-up from Dean. It says, for argument's sake, there's no BIM manager in the project. Can that column be deleted?
Yeah, basically no, that cannot be deleted. You can't select the BIM manager project. So basically what CIC is saying is typically, and as you see this is in this project, a BIM manager, right? What that BIM manager would do was evaluate the BIM capability of the client team, consider engagement for the suitable client BIM consultants to assist in the development of the project. So what it wants to know is that if that has been removed, that it can show that it's been removed. So who's responsible for it now needs to be reassociated, and that's probably, if that in that case, it might be with the architect, for example, So we don't have a BIM manager, but the architect does it. And that's the idea, is that, okay, this has changed in the standard process, and now that's what's happened in effect. So I can see that, and I can see what he's trying to get at. But what we're trying to do is show changes between the roles themselves. Now, if you were really keen on it, I mean, and you wanted to set it up from scratch, you could obviously create a new project list. And I didn't show you this before, but I think it's probably an incredible amount of work. I'm going to use the create new function here. I'm going to create a new CIC document by itself. I'm just going to select a client quickly and call this new. And just drop in a couple of parameters here, and again, quickly put in an address. You could start it blank, right? So it would be a hard road to hoe as far as I can see, because it basically creates this. It's all the phases, all roles, but none of the tasks are assigned. So again, all of that is created. It's if you like, a blank copy of the CIC document. You could avoid the BIM manager task altogether. And then basically, if you wanted to, you could go through and assign the roles as required. You go and select other. If you had a particular role in there that was custom, you can go and create something in there. You can actually add something which might be slightly different, and customize that. Or again, though limited, there is a whole range of roles in here that you can add in as well. Thanks, Sam.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. And I believe that's all the questions that have been submitted through the Q&A tab for now.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask anybody, if there's anything extra you need to know, or you are going to attack this project in 2 weeks' time, and you don't know quite what I said or whatever, I feel free to contact Masterspec or myself directly. But also within the CIC guidelines themselves or whatever, along the bottom you will see just some quick links to the CICs itself, or a how-to. So if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, don't ring me, but there are some quick screen grabs in here which may help you get through the process. But personally, if it's work hours, I'd rather hear from you. Give us a call, talk to our helpline. We're open obviously 9 to 5 on the helpline, or give us a call directly and just ask for me. I'm quite happy to spend some time going through and helping you with the system and getting you acquainted with it. So again, thanks for giving up some of your lunchtime, or probably all of your lunchtime, and I look forward to talking to you, any of you, in the near future. Thanks again.